After arrangements for the house and possessions were made, and the older members of the family had made final decisions, I went to New York to live with my sister Greta and her husband Carl. Life with Greta and Carl was not an easy one. Greta was very mean to me and really took advantage of my misfortune. She was pregnant, and after Carl Jr. arrived, I had to be on my P's and Q's at all times. I was not allowed to touch the baby or get near him. If I did, I got whipped with a razor strap. My sister would initiate the whipping, and when she tired, her husband Carl would take over to finish. On top of that, I was sent to bed without any supper. Greta made me feel very unwanted as the days went by. She took me over our oldest sister Marilyn's once in a while to see Ellen. We played outside while the grown-ups visited. It was fun playing with Ellen, especially when we played ball and jump rope. No one knew I had to sew holes in my undies to jump ropes so the other kids would not mock me. It pleased me much to see Ellen happy, and I prayed to God she never experienced what I had with Greta and Carl. I remember how I used to ask God to take care of her and never let Marilyn create any unhappiness for her that would make her feel unwanted as I had been made to feel. One day, Greta had to go out, leaving Carl Jr. and me alone. The radiator in the apartment boiled over, flooding the floor. My reflexes were so slow I could have kicked myself. I ran to the door, but I couldn't open it because the latch was too high. I ran to the kitchen and on into the bedroom. By now, steam was clouding all the rooms. Finally, I ran to the living room window, raised it, ran back to the bedroom to grab Carl Jr. I lowered him to the ground and jumped. Once outside, I felt like a hero and just knew when Greta returned home, she'd have a reward for me. I took Carl Jr. over to our next door neighbor's apartment, Miss Scroll, and after telling her what happened, she agreed to let us stay with her until Greta returned. Together with Miss Scroll, I told Greta what happened. She immediately grabbed Carl Jr. and hugged him close to her bosom. Kissing him, she totally ignored me. My feelings of heroism vanished. Later that night, Greta whipped me with the razor strap because in the process of lowering Carl Jr. to the ground, his arm had gotten scratched on the side of the brick building, and she resented it. I also was sent to bed without supper. Days went by and nightmares had me tense. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night and find myself under the bed. I'd crawl back in bed, but when daylight came and time to get up, I'd find myself under the bed again, covers and all. My sister had gotten to the point where if she even thought I had done something, even after going to bed, she'd pull back the covers and start with her razor strap cutting into my flesh. I guess this is where my nightmare began and I couldn't sleep. I often woke up crying in the middle of the night. If Greta heard me crying, she'd give me more razor strap, so I soon learned how to stifle my cries. It was really rough living with her. I often wondered if she was really my sister or a witch, as she was a poor excuse for a sister. I had never done anything to deserve this punishment. Lord, I prayed, please take me away from all of this. One night, some months later, while at the dinner table, she told me about my sister Lois. She was married to a sailor and lived in Norfolk. How she couldn't have any children and had always wanted a little girl. Lois had asked Greta could she have me, and she said yes. That night after dinner, she started packing my clothes, what little I had, because Lois would be there to pick me up the next day. I was 6 years old and thought anything would be better than living here with Greta and Carl. But oh, how I was wrong. My sister Lois was indeed a witch, a real one. And after 15 months with Greta and Carl in the big city, life with Lois began. The ride to Norfolk was a long one, and I was glad when we finally arrived. I was a little afraid, remembering what life had been like living in New York. All I could think about was asking God to please let it be different here with Lois. let her really want me, but nevertheless, the worst was yet to come. We lived in a stucco two-family dwelling. There was a railroad track that ran alongside the house. My sister Lois was tan-complected like I visioned mother, tall, and had short hair she wore in a boyish bob. My brother-in-law Fred was tall, dark, black as soot, but had a heart as good as gold and very nice looking. I remember he had a wart on the back of his wrist the size of a ping pong ball, and he used to let me sit on his lap and play with it for hours. He was a very nice man to me, and he was only mean when Lois told him to be. When I got a whipping, Lois would initiate like Greta, and Fred became Carl, as he would take over when she tired and whip me to the finish. But he always found time to apologize when Lois wasn't around, and I loved him for this. I knew he didn't really want to hurt me. I remember how Fred would come into my bedroom when I was taking a nap and lie down on the bed with me and spread open my legs to feel and play with my cookie. Sometimes he'd stick his middle finger into my cookie, moving it up and down repeatedly. Then he'd stick it to his nose to smell. He would even lie on top of me and hold me very tight and close to him, grinding me with his body. He'd kiss me on the mouth too, penetrating it with his tongue. I remember so clearly now. He'd always do this to me when Lois wasn't home. At the very sign of her return, he'd jump up and run out. I didn't think anything about this then. It wasn't until I was grown and heard a TV program about sexually abused children that I started putting two and two together and realized I had been a victim. And the type of individual Fred was. I was sad, for he too had taken advantage of me in a different kind of way. Lois bought me the best clothes and shoes, but hesitation on her part and the lack of real love for me prevented me from ordinary toys and games other children were allowed to have, and she too took a greater advantage of my misfortune. All she did was buy. I often wondered if, when she went to the store to buy these material things for me, couldn't she buy a little love too, or was it sold out in stores? She was very mean and cruel. The house was modern and furnished very elaborately. I had my own room, never dreaming that in the future I would have to share it. I stayed with Lois and Fred until he left for almost 7 years, and I really learned a lot. Too much and too fast for a 7-year-old. She was no different than my sister Greta, and I know she was as mean, if not meaner, toward me as Greta. Whenever I was mischievous, I not only got beaten with a razor strap, but belts, belt buckles, and hairbrushes. I even got the daylights knocked out of me with a broom handle, often breaking it over my head. She would pull me around by grabbing my hair in the top of my head. I thought she would pull it right out of my scalp, root and all. Here too, I got sent to bed with no dinner. She even went as far as to lock me in the clothes closet of my bedroom until early morning. After Fred left, he got assigned 4 years shore duty overseas. My rude awakening came into focus. Lois put a great bit of fear in me that I still had nightmares, and I was growing more and more afraid of her as the days and months went by. She would send me to the store at all hours of the night and made me go up by the playground where there were no street lights. She'd stand outside the door watching to make sure I went that way until I cleared the corner. She made me watch scary pictures on TV late at night, especially Alfred Hitchcock. Norfolk in those days was pretty. It was city with a white folk atmosphere. The lawns were plump and green, and in the summertime it was safe enough to sleep on the lawn all night to escape the heat and musk inside. The houses were nice with adequate room and furnished with the best. Lois never drove, but she had a car. My brother-in-law, Fred, wasn't home very often, but when he did come home from the ship, he'd be bogged down with presents for Lois and me. Lord knows she didn't deserve the presents or this kind of man, and I have my doubts if she ever loved him, for I don't think she could have loved anybody, not even herself. Once he bought me and Lois matching real alligator shoulder bags. I was leaving for Sunday school one morning when she snatched the bag handling from my shoulder. She rushed over to me, snatched it from my shoulder, breaking the strap, hit me over the head with it, and told me I couldn't have it. She called me a little black slut, opened the door, and pushed me out. I was in tears all the way to the bus stop. I never saw that shoulder bag again. When Fred wasn't home, she had every Tom, Dick, and Harry, Susie, Sally, and Jane she could find around, but she eventually met her Waterloo, believe me. After Fred left for overseas assignment, she really let her hair down. She started dating this man named Mac, who wasn't worth a dime. Lois was worth even less. She was an alcoholic, and so was Mac. They drank from sunup to sundown and always argued and fought. I won't say they made love, but they both stripped naked and had sexual intercourse right in front of me. They didn't care, but again, there was nobody I could tell. I remember one time I watched them through the window of my bedroom, and it made me sick to my stomach when I saw him pull his penis out of her, and all this white stuff that looked like cream came spurting out. I had to run around by the railroad tracks and vomit. Lots of nights she would sleep on the lawn, and Mac would sneak up behind her and beat her, dragging her from the lawn to the side of the house where he would bang her head against the wall. One night he woke me by banging her head on the side of the house. I ran to the kitchen, got 2 butcher knives, ran outside in my pajamas, and dared him to hit her again. When he saw the butcher knives, he split for his car and sped away. I helped her into the house and held cold rags to her head and eyes until she felt better. Another thing about Lois is that no matter what hurt her, a drink of alcohol took care of everything. Black eyes, headaches, toothaches, everything. We had a bootlegger who lived directly in front of us, and any hour of the day or night, she sent me knocking on the door for some whiskey to ease her aches and pains. She was something else. She often had to wear sunglasses to hide her bloodshot eyes, and especially when Mac would blacken them during one of their fights. How one human being could live like that, I'll never know. I often lie awake at night wondering why and how in the world my brother-in-law married such a no-good creature. He was such a wonderful and loving man. Certainly he deserved better, but I guess that's how the ball bounces in life. We never really get what we deserve. Or do we? Or do we? Or do we? Or do we? Or do we?